What's in a name? Why is it so important that African Americans name ourselves and are able, in Black America, we're able to name ourselves? Why is it so important? Why is it so important now? And I have a video that talks about identity and how important identity is. It's extremely important. And what are some of the factors that are driving this conversation? It's very important for us to discuss this, and it's important to discuss it now. I'm SYNOLVE. How are you guys doing? Let's get into it. Hi guys, I'm SYNOLVE. How are you guys doing? I am so happy to be here with you and to talk about this. Whether you're ADOS, FBA, African American, Pan African, Black American, we are one people, we are family, and I love you. Of course, you know I do. What's in a name? Why is this so important? Why are we really obsessed with naming ourselves? If you've ever seen Roots and you've seen the scene with Kunta Kinte, then you know how important naming ourselves is. When we were brought to this country, our ancestral names, the names that our parents gave us, we were not allowed to use those names in many cases. Those names were beaten out of us, and we had to take on white names. We had to take on European names. And so it's important that we name ourselves. Historically, it is important that we name ourselves. His original name in the scene was Kunta Kinte, but his master, okay, the evil one, beat him until he called himself Toby. And so when you hear people with such fervor, right? You hear us with such fervor and such passion talking about naming ourselves, we as a people, because we have gone through so many different strains of names that we were not given ourselves. One of them you may be familiar with, starts with an N, ends with an R. And so we weren't able to name ourselves. In naming ourselves, it dignifies our humanity. It says we are human, right? We are authentic, and we have the right to name ourselves. I don't understand why that right would be taken away from us. Something as simple. They let us know. I mean, America is one of the harshest systems that went through the transatlantic slave trade. And in that system, you had no rights. There was terrible everything from lynching to murders to beating and whippings to, well, sexual misconduct, okay? And our families were torn apart and sold, and even as babies. And so people don't know the ancestry, that we don't know our history. And so we named ourselves in the 90s. I've talked about that in another video. I'll link it below so that we can have identity. I did a whole video on identity. I sure would. Really, you would bless me if you would go and watch that video. And in that video, we have this right? And I don't understand. Someone wrote this comment that I don't understand. She was basically saying, I don't understand why people don't think that we have the right to name ourselves. We do. And it's important. I've talked about, the fact that what really stuns me is that I would never go to, for example, Kenya. I had a great discussion with someone who talks about this, that I would never go to Kenya and call myself a Kikuyu or a Lua or call myself Maasai. I would never do that. I think that's just disrespect. I wouldn't do that in any of the 54 countries in Africa or anywhere, right? Because there are tribes and there are tribal identities, and those tribal identities are important. But when people, for some reason, come here to America, they feel like they can take on the identity of African American. They feel like it's a generic term. But if you are coming from Nigeria and you are Igbo, or you're coming from Ghana and you're Iwe, why wouldn't you keep your tribal identity? Why would you discard your tribal rich heritage and ancestry and tribal identity? Now, I'm just using those for examples, right? Not pointing out anyone here, just using this for example, but why would you? You got a rich tribal history. So why would you even choose to take on this identity of, that's just a common, just a common theme identity that we selected because we didn't know exactly where we were from, but also because we were many tribes. When you do the ancestry DNA, we were so mixed, and so many people were caught up from Benin and, to South Africa, from the West, Western Africa, and to Southern Africa, and in between. We were in Central Africa. We were caught up, and our ancestors were caught up in the slave trade and the transatlantic slave trade. And so now we get to name ourselves. One of the things that I realized, I watched a video that went viral, and this young lady was saying she was African American and she left Ghana. And a lot of people were saying all the reasons why African Americans don't make it, why we haven't been successful in Ghana, why so many people are leaving, so forth and so on. And I was like, let me go, wait, hold on. I made a comment on several of the videos, and I was like, give this young lady some slack, so forth and so on. I know, having watched some of the videos, I know that some people had gone through it, had their own troubles, but they were either from Ghana, they had a family member from Ghana, a relative, a parent who was Ghanaian, and so they had family ties there. They had people they could talk to, people they could turn to ask questions, to point them in the right direction for different things, different places they knew where to go, housing, so forth and so on. And also they knew about bartering and language. They might have visited Ghana over the years as children. So I looked her up. I was like, hold on. SYNOLVE, let me go research. And I researched, and comes to find out she went home to Jamaica. She literally went home to Jamaica. She grew up in Jamaica. So she used the term, and I saw some of her videos where she would have the American flag on her videos. And so I think people just assumed that she was African American, or maybe she said that she was African American in some of her videos, but she's actually Jamaican American. And so that's my daughter is texting me. So that is very important that we know, because we get blamed around the world for a whole bunch of stuff that we ain't even involved in. We weren't even involved in that. We are not even doing that. It's not even a part of us. We ain't got nothing to do with that. Okay, she's Jamaican. She left Ghana, which is her business. Okay, honey, with her daughter. She left Ghana when she got ready. Good, gotten ready. Okay, and she left Ghana and she went home to Jamaica. Y'all, you blame us. Y'all be out here just blaming us willy-nilly for stuff, and you don't do your research. Right? We can all get stuff wrong. I've gotten stuff wrong and had to come back and apologize, really. But I had. And so we get blamed for stuff. And that's the reason why identity is so important. We want our own identity. And some of the people that were talking, one of the, people that were talking was from Cameroon, right? I knew her story. I had interviewed her. And so I knew that she was from Cameroon, and she was saying all of this stuff. And she was saying, oh, I'm African-American, whatever. And I'm like, baby, you have Cameroonian blood and ancestry and descendancy. You have a rich legacy and heritage. You grow up and with at least one person in your home. Your parents were both Cameroonian, but you grew up, right, in a home where you would have seen African sights and smells and tastes and heard African languages, and you would have had, been accustomed to African ways of doing things. We don't have that. We have no idea. So when we go and it's a new experience for us, okay, we're going to have our ups and downs. We're going to wonder, if this is right for us. We're going to, have some culture shocks. That's okay. That's like real. That's like for real. This is the real life, real living here. Okay. And that's fine. That is just fine. I love it when people are proud of their heritage, when they're proud of their ancestry, when they're proud of their DNA, when they're proud that they're Sierra Leone, right? They're American, they're from Sierra Leone. They've immigrated here and they are living in America. And so they don't have to call themselves African American. Call yourselves, right? Why not call yourself Sierra Leonean or Sierra Leone American? I think that's awesome. But allow And we don't have to ask your permission, but, you know, you should in your mind somehow. Because you know, why not allow African Americans, Black people, right? Black Americans, foundational Black Americans, FBA, ADOS, American descendants of slavery. I say African descendants of American slavery. That's what I say. So we can name ourselves, right? Because I just named myself African descendants of slavery in America, right? I'm an African descendant of slavery in America. That's who I am, right? That's who I am. That's who I be. Okay. Yes, I do believe that we have history here and legacy here. We know that the Indians, also Native Americans, also enslaved Black Americans. So yes, there is this shared history and culture because they were having relationships, forced and unforced. Okay. We know that. We know that there were tribes, there were Native Americans who also hid and fought with Black, indigenous, you know, people. And so we know that we have, some of us, when they say we got Cherokee in our blood, yes, you do. Okay. We do. All right. Also, I believe that many of us were already here. We were already here before Columbus even came, right? They used to call this the land of the Blacks. They used to, you know, call this the land of the Moors. We know we were already here. Yeah, you can't have Black kings and queens in Hawaii without having our people traveling from Africa throughout the world. We were seafarers. Our ancestors built boats, and, you know, they were amazing. They built the pyramids, okay? So they knew what they were doing. They knew construction. Yes, they did. They built those mud houses, and many of those mud houses are still standing today, while you get houses in America and the West and other places that are crumbling and falling apart. I said it. So, what's in a name? In a name is freedom. In a name is freedom. It is freedom. It is the ability to be free and to name yourself, ourselves. I can be African American. I can be Black American. I can be African descendants of slavery in America, and still have a Pan-African identity. Still have a Pan-African identity. I can do that. Yeah, I can be both. I'm a wife and a mom. And I'm my husband's girlfriend. You better ask somebody. You see what I'm saying? I can be all that. I can be all of that. I am all of that and more, right? I can be a content creator. I can juggle and have multiple hats. Yes, I can and do, right? I'm a content creator. I'm sitting here with you all. But I also wash dishes and I mop floors. I sweep. I change bed linens for our family and sheets. Yes, I do. Yes, I take care of my husband. I also make herbs for my husband for, healing people if they have problems or health issues. I'm very, very big on wellness. So I love assisting people when they're, going to the doctor, and I was a medical writer, and so if there's a way I can help to kind of read through some of the information, I can kind of share some of the words, break down some of the things and the medicines they're taking from a medical writer's perspective. Yes, that's me, right? I love herbs and I love studying. I love the ancestral ways. And so as we pull back to our own heritage and ancestry, hear the rhetoric, and I've said this before, hear the rhetoric, but listen to each other. Be able to listen to each other, because this is how we move forward. This is how we progress. I mean, this fevered pitch is getting really heated. It's getting hot, and the reason is I think is because we're just not listening to each other. Other people are just not listening when we say we want to have a heritage and identity of our own. I listened to a young lady, and she was saying, "You can't tell me what to do. I'm gonna call myself African American." I forgot now. I think where she was from, so I don't want to say, but she was an immigrant, and she was saying, "I'm gonna call myself African American regardless, and ain't nothing you can do." I'm like, why is the neck twisting though? Like, why? And why? What was so important about the name that you wanted it, but you want it without the suffering and the pain and the trauma that comes with it. And you can't have that. You can't borrow the name and have the name without all of the suffering and trauma that goes with it. Now, does it mean that all of us are separating? There's so many ideas and so many ideologies on this. We're all not, you're noticing and seeing it, we're not all one people. We have different ideas, different ideologies. It doesn't mean, for me, right, and for my family, it doesn't mean that we're trying to separate wholly from Africa. No, it just means the same thing. When I go to your house, I'm going to respect your rules. I'm going to respect you, right? I'm going to respect your house. And so with the same thing, when you come to our house, we just want, all right, just a little respect. RSPECT, just a little respect. All right. Okay, we're going to Africa. We are going to Kenya in November. I'm changing it. And a few people reach out to me and ask me, quite a few people ask me about changing the date. They had some things going on in September, right after August. Of course, August is school, back to school, college, a lot of different things are happening. And so they needed a little time to recover. And I understand. So we are moving the trip to November. If you are interested in going with us to Kenya. Also, I have a video about Spike Lee and his wife, Tanya, and they are now the ambassadors of Benin and the come back to Benin citizenship opportunity. And so they're the ambassadors for African Americans. And so they're called thematic ambassadors. Say that 5 times hard. Okay, they are thematic ambassadors. And so we could do a trip to Benin in December if that's something that you're interested in. So below, in the comments below, let me know if you're interested in going to Benin. Let me know if you're interested in going to Kenya. But email me at theblackexodus@gmail.com and sign up for my newsletter, and we can talk more about it. Okay? Okay. All right, guys. This is SYNOLVE signing off. Love you guys so much. This is such a fascinating conversation. What's in a name? What is in a name? Why is this so important? This is one of the most fundamental conversations that has to happen in this time as we define who we are as we move forward. Listen with love, listen with grace, and listen with understanding, the way that you would want someone to listen to you. All right? Come with grace. Use good housekeeping rules. We always hear, when you come to Africa, you come back home to Africa, you know, y'all need to act right and not bring your bad habits. Well, I'm going to tell y'all the same thing. When you come to America, have some good housekeeping rules and respect the indigenous cultures that already exist. Don't try to replace them. Don't try to be them. Simply be yourselves and coexist with them. It will go a long way. If you invited us to the cookout, when you have your cultural heritage events, it would be nice if African Americans would be invited. A lot of times we're not invited. It would be real nice to be invited and to be included, and for you to reach out and be a part of the African American community. We got to work together. We're all African at the end of the day. We need to work together. It would be a blessing, I believe, and a celebration with the ancestors to see all of their children coming together. And we can do that. We can do that. We can have our own identity, right? And we can be a part of a global identity of Africa, because Africa is rising. There's so many opportunities, so many things that are happening on the African continent. And as things close up here, DEI, the government shutdowns, the government shutting down different departments, firings, all of that, then it gives us the opportunity to invest in a larger market, global market, because we cannot set our sights wholly on a burning house. Malcolm already told y'all that. Okay, so if you're thinking that you're just gonna put all your eggs in one basket and that whole basket is gonna be America, I'm sorry, because de-dollarization is happening. It is happening. And over 300,000, if I'm not mistaken, Black women alone, we're not counting Black men, okay? Just Black women alone have been forced out of jobs in the government. And I would say that that number probably doubles, right, within the government for black men. Black men are losing their jobs here in America at an alarming rate. And so what are you going to do? You're going to invest in this system? You're going to invest here? Okay, be careful. Okay, be careful, because you are a global citizen. Don't put your eggs all in one basket. Globally, think globally. Think about your ancestors and the truth that the actual transatlantic slave trade actually happened. It actually was a real thing, and your people were imported here. They were brought here in shackles and chains. Yes, we are a mix of many different things. We're a mix of Native Americans. We are a mix of indigenous people who are already here. And we're a mix of the transatlantic slave trade. And so that whole history and that ancestry is important. Don't give up on any part of your ancestry or DNA. And don't give up on any legacy. Don't leave any money on the table. Okay? Don't leave any money on. If you have a chance to invest in Africa, in Kenya, in Benin, in Burkina Faso, in Ghana, in Cote d'Ivoire, invest. If you have the opportunity to invest anywhere in the Congo, around the or in countries Mauritius or Mauritania, Madagascar, any of the 54 countries in Africa, then I suggest you do that. Okay, so that you can provide a safety net for you and your family. Guys, I love you guys so much. I really do. I do. All right, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. What's in a name, right? Why is it so important for African Americans, Black Americans, FBAs, Foundational Black Americans, ADOS? Why is it so important for us to name ourselves? It's important in this season. You tell me what you think in the comments below. I'll be there, right? I'm excited. I'll meet you down in the comments, okay? I'm gonna leave all the information below, links and information for the Kenya trip and information for the opportunity if you want to sign up the email list and you want to be a part of a tour to Benin in December, okay? So Kenya in November, and we're gonna head on over to Benin in December, right? You can choose both of the trips, one of the trips. It's up to you. I'd love to have you go on a trip with me and my husband. I'd love to see you there. All right, guys, we're exploring citizenship opportunities. There's going to be so much, even in the tour to Kenya, because we're going to explore citizenship. I already have a government, I can't say that. I already have a citizenship professional who is going to come and talk to us. And so this is going to be important, as well as investment opportunities in Kenya. So you won't want to miss it. We're going to go to Nairobi. We're going to head out to the beach. It's once in a life opportunity. We're going to have fun, and we're going to invest, and we're going to learn a whole lot. I'm learning too. All right, guys, this is SYNOLVE signing off. I love you guys, and I'm going to see y'all in another video real soon. Bye-bye, guys.